Let's talk about your podcast. Let's dig into the work that you're doing with that.
Yeah. So I started my podcast in January of this year, and it's called Peripheries. And I've really enjoyed, the first season. So I'm actually doing 2 seasons this year. So I just launched the first episode in season 2. But the whole first season, those 15 episodes are all sharing letters from people all around the world who write to me, who have written in the last 8 years to share their stories. And it's titled Peripheries because these stories and the people that tend to reach out to me fall in between groups. They're bi, tri, quad, whatever, like in terms of cultural values, cultural awareness, their parentage, sometimes how other people see them, some type of complex identity structure. So those kind of letters coming in have just made me feel more welcomed and less alone. And also, I wanted to share those perspectives because I don't feel like there's a place anywhere where those voices are being heard. And this is not just from America. This is, from there are 30 countries so far that intersect with the podcast in terms of the letters and the listeners. And so just kind of hearing from people in other countries and even in the US as well on what their perspective is on identity, finding belonging, finding meaning, being themselves, even if it doesn't match their family, or fighting for somebody else who they love and who's being misunderstood. So I've just found all those letters to be very heartwarming, and I wanted to share those and respond to them in the first season. And so I kind of wove in a little bit of what I used to do in education as far as teaching race and culture studies. I taught 15 different college courses and back in the day when I was a professor. So I kind of wove in some of those textbooks and information about definitions of race, culture, and ethnicity, as well as how our identities form and how race and culture are different things, and how the race worldview and stereotypes and prejudice and racism really affect the social dynamics of America and all around the world, unfortunately, since colonialism. So I talked a lot about that. And then in this second season, I'm bringing on voices. So in the first season, I made all of the writers anonymous. I changed the names of the writers so that nobody would be attacked. I didn't want anybody else to be canceled with me or go to the chopping block or whatever, get crazy comments online. And so I kind of just made all of those voices. I protected their anonymity and their privacy in that way. And then the second season, people are coming on the podcast with audio. We're kind of like, doing this a little gradually, a little slowly, just to build a safe space. So first the writing and then the audio, and then maybe season 3 will have video. But I know that it's hard for a lot of people because of cancel culture. It's hard to just put all your life story and your feelings and, your insecurities and everything online with your attached to your face, because oftentimes there's that fear of being punished by somebody who doesn't understand where you're coming from, and that gaining traction and going viral. And then can you come back from that, in a sense of your career and your life and your mental health as well.
Yes, yes.
So, I really want to protect the people that are sharing such personal stories with me. And I also want to, why we talk about on Peripheries, this South African proverb where, if there's somebody on the margins of a circle, like instead of cutting them out, you just make the circle bigger. And so that eventually people on the periphery become the center, people on the edges that are not noticed and not heard, become the central voice and are part of, the circle. So that's kind of the goal of the podcast. And it's on Patreon. It can also be streamed on Spotify. And if anybody's not heard of it, you can binge it and catch up because there are 15 episodes in season 1, and season 2, the first episode just came out this week, and the next one will be coming next week. So it's a weekly podcast.
Okay. Yeah. And I hope that one day we can get into a space in the world where we say, I don't agree with this, but I understand it. I
Mhm.
respect it and love each other regardless if you like
Right.
it or not, if you don't believe in it or not. And that's to me why mental health is so rampant, because people will get under people's posts on social media and say the nastiest things to people.
Right.
Um, let's talk about your paintings, because you're a really super talented artist. Um,
Yeah.
and I've seen a lot of that on your Instagram page. And
Mhm.
so, what made you start painting? Is it something that you always did? Or was there a period in time where you got to it and it, started for you? How did that come about?
Yeah. So I've been creative my whole life. And I think even back to 2015 when Matt Lauer was talking to me on the Today Show, he's like, why did you draw yourself as a Black girl when you were 4 years old or something? Like people were talking about like my drawings, at 4 years old. It's just, I've always been drawing. I've always been painting. I've always been creating. And I think that, a lot of people just didn't know that because obviously the media wasn't promoting my professional artwork or mentioning that my terminal degree is a Master of Fine Arts summa cum laude from Howard University. Like a lot of people just didn't know that most of my life has been spent in that field, up until I graduated Howard and moved to the Pacific Northwest. And that's where I started teaching in that area. They had a lot of fine art professors, but they did not have very many professors that had the minimum number of graduate credit hours in Black history and race and culture studies, which I did have from Howard University. And so, the market was flooded for art teachers, but there was a need for teachers in Africana studies. And so it's kind of like, that's how I started teaching at Eastern Washington University because of that need. But yes, my primary degree focus has always been studio art, and I have my bachelor's of art in painting and drawing, and then my master's is actually in sculpture. So I have
Okay.
a wide variety of media that I work in, and being here in Arizona, I've done some clay work as well, some pottery. So all of that's on my website, racheldolezal.com. I have kind of, if you go to the store and there's a little drop down menu, you can kind of select whatever medium you're interested in viewing. And so it's something that's just a part of me, creating and cultivating. That space is important for me for my, not just my mental health, but in terms of who I am at my core. I like to create beautiful things in the world. And whether that's being a mom, doing a painting, growing the garden, it's that kind of generative energy of putting something beautiful out there that, sorry, this is Theodore. He's coming, he's coming to say hi. He's a little kitten that doesn't understand. uh,
He
but
wants to
yeah,
take the attention away from you.
I know. He's like, I'm too cute. But anyway, yeah, I think creating art is just, again, focusing on what do you bring to the world with your abilities and your talents, and doing that and putting that out there. And I love teaching. I love bringing education to people. But in this season of my life, that's not, something that I'm able to do. So creating art and doing some of the other work that I'm doing is, is the available option. And it's also a very important part of me. So,
You're super talented. And also too, when you dive into yourself, you never
mhm,
know what's gonna come out. And it's solace also. It gives you a place of peace.
right.
And it's therapeutic as well.
With teenage age spans, I think that social media pressure is just something that we can't relate to as parents because we didn't have to go through that same experience, like having your middle school years blasted on social media or high school or whatever. It's so unforgiving, and it's so hard for them to feel pressured to be like perfect and have their hair perfect and have, no acne and have no, like all these things have to be like perfect. And it's mostly because of that visual pressure of Instagram and TikTok, and everybody that's going viral looks perfect usually. So why do we have such pressure for, women to look perfect, men to look perfect? It's just too much. It's just too much. And I think that we all need to be just a little more kind, a little more compassionate, a little more understanding to the kids, the parents, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to be in a space to give people the grace to make a mistake. Or if, and especially at a time with a kid, I don't want to call everything a mistake
Yeah.
because it's how you view it.
Right.
It's how someone else is viewing something in your life. It may be a learning stage for you. I mean, it may be, like I said, childhood is very hard,
Mhm.
growing up. And when we don't have that foundation from our parents, that's
Yeah.
where the love comes from. People assume that, you just, love just comes. No, love is taught. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, that foundation from parenting is broken. And when that love is broken and it's not taught, it causes a lot of trauma in your childhood. And you try to figure out a lot of things on your own because your emotional development is not being met. And
Mhm.
and being a teenager, you're starting to lose your innocence. Your body is going different and things like that, and you're trying to figure out who you are. And
Yeah.
so, we all need to give each other grace, as far as being able to be imperfect in someone else's eyes. But the truth of the matter is, none of us are. None of us
Right.
are perfect. And, we should be able to have an opinion, in a respectful way, a different perspective, and be mentally strong enough and adult enough to try to understand and comprehend somebody else's position and
Right.
come to some type of agreement and conclusion. And the conclusion should be, for me, and I always hashtag this, is spread love.
Mhm.
Spread love. It is so important. And the reason why we're in the state of emergency that we are in, with mass shootings and our babies being killed and everything that is going on with our kids, we're there because we have lost our way with love. And we need to get back to a place of that. And
Mhm.
so, with that being said, I'm so glad that you are in a healing journey for yourself, for your family, and doing great things as far as gardening, your paintings, enjoying your beautiful family. Um, you've had a long journey, and I'm glad moving forward that you are, in a good space and time right now. And so I want to say congratulations to you for your book, for your activism that you're still doing and pursuing, and everything, moving forward. I will, definitely be keeping watch, and looking at your paintings and things like that. And so, I want to say, Rachel, go ahead and, um, let the viewers know about all your websites, where they can find your paintings, podcasts, and your book, that started us, on this journey of this wonderful conversation that we had today.
Well, thank you so much for, bringing me here. And yes, my book can be found at Barnes and Noble, Amazon. Most bookstores can get it if you prefer using a local bookstore. I also offer signed copies on my website, which is racheldolezal.com. That's where all my art is. And there's a little tab under the shop that says more, and you can find the signed book under that little tab there. Otherwise, I'm on Instagram, Rachel A. Dolezal. That's my only verified social media account. I do have a Twitter. I lost my Twitter and Facebook verified pages due to hacking and craziness, across the last 8 years. But I do have a small presence on those two platforms that's just more private. But Instagram, Rachel A. Dolezal, and then peripheraiespodcast.com is the website for the podcast, or you can just go on Spotify and do the little search thing and type in peripheries, PERIPHERIES, and it'll pop up, so I hope that you're able to check out the podcast, grab a book, grab some art. I do have signed prints that start at $35 and up. And then I have originals as well. So thank you so much for bringing me on to your show, and good luck with your cartoon. I hope that gets picked up. I hope that your books, are read widely. And again, thanks so much for having this great idea of doing, a virtual book fair, because I think it's needed, past COVID. I think ongoing, a lot of people are finding their social circles online and going to events more virtually, because it's just efficient, practical too. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And thank you so much, Rachel, for having and taking the time and being on today. Thank you. I enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to all that's coming your way for you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.